Today I'm going to show you how I do the flushing of the power steering system. First of all, I want to thank One Road, that guy on YouTube that looks like Michael Gross in Tremors 2 and Tremors 3. So I'm going to do basically what he did, but I'm going to add a few improvements. Basically, no need to jack the whole car up completely, just that you get the load off this wheel so you can turn the steering easily. And for my case, I want to remove the air intake because I want to clean the power steering reservoir, just to make sure that it's clean. So it's been said that you need to avoid getting the fluid low so that you won't let the system ingest air into the hoses. So one way to do it is to keep the fluid in here as much as possible, as long that you don't let the fluid from the power steering pump to come out. Let it remain inside there. You wouldn't let air into the system. So you're gonna keep these two hoses upwards while I remove this. Alright, and I'm gonna suspend this up. So I need to remove the air intake for this case. 1, 2, 3 screws, and this clamp, and the air intake connector. So first I'm going to remove this, and then I can have easy access for the reservoir, and I can put the container over here to drain out the fluid. So this is the old fluid that I take from the reservoir. Doesn't look too bad, but it's definitely dark. It's about 2 years old, and I'm going to use this as a flush and the new fluid. This is a PENNZOIL made USA 2011 batch, and it's mineral but it's high quality. So I plan to do a flush every year, so it should be okay for flush every year. Right now I have a PENNZOIL ATF in there, which is synthetic, but it's very expensive, so I'm going to stick with this for now. I want to stick with the synthetic for the gearbox, and for the power steering I'm going to use this mineral. Okay, I've got the air intake off. Don't forget to close the intake port over here so that no insects or foreign matter will be ingested. Okay, now we have access. Here it's empty, you can put the container over here, but I'm going to loosen these two clamps and loosen the hose. So this is a small hose, the return hose, and this is the supply hose. So the supply hose is lower than the return hose. The metal mesh is over here. That means it's in between the return and the supply. So the return is normally above the mesh, and the supply is below the mesh, to ensure that you get a filtered fluid. So now I'm going to open both of these and remove the reservoir, and try to keep this hose upwards. Okay, after what seems like an eternity of huffing and puffing, it's finally out. So I suspended the hoses like this. There's still fluid inside here, so it won't be ingesting air. Later when I fill it up inside here, and these are connected, there will be no air in the system. Right? So there's still fluid here to the power steering pump, and from here up to here. Suspended like this. Spill some fluid from here and the reservoir. And looking at the condition of this, it's dark but it's still red. It's not dirty, it seems to be just dark color. I don't see any debris in there. So now I'm going to proceed to spray brake cleaner on this reservoir and see how dirty it is. Okay, I don't know if this is going to show up in the camera, but there's a little bit of dirt over there. It's not as bad as what it was 2 years ago, so it's good that I clean this up. Okay, I've cleaned the reservoir to the best of my ability with the brake cleaner. There's still a little bit of gunk in there, but it's far less than before, and even far less than 2 years ago. So I even cleaned the outside, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to plug in this little length of hose left over from my power steering cooler upgrade with a M10 bolt, and plug the return line here. Alright, I don't need to clamp, just because the pressure is low. Just plug this in, and then we can plug back the high pressure line, fill this up, and then we can start doing this draining. The system now, I put back the high pressure hose. This is the lower hose and the bigger hose, the reservoir, and I'm going to fill up the reservoir maybe up to here. I'm going to go a bit fuller so that above the maximum, because it doesn't matter now. I just want to drain it out. And the return line, I've connected a barb to this container over here, right? So I'm going to slowly turn the steering after I fill it up to get the oil fluid out. This is how it looks like filled up over here. So now I'm going to start. Don't worry about the air bubbles, because once you fill it up over here, it will fill up all the gaps from here to here, which we had earlier, maybe somewhere here. So now it fills up over here, and we can turn the steering slowly. Okay, have a look at this. I'm turning the steering smoothly at one pass just to move the fluid. You can see the fluid is moving out, right? Okay, earlier I made a mistake that I cannot put the reservoir, the container over here, because it's higher than the reservoir, or too near. So I need to put it down. So you can see now this return line is going down, which will help gravity pull it down, and I got much more fluid out. So this is the way to do it. Okay, after running through 2 quarts of ATF through the system, and the final bits seem to be clean, so I'm going to call it quits and take out the tube and put back, take out this stopper here and put back this hose over here and fill it up, and then start the engine and see if the level is okay, right? So if there's any air in the system, running it without a cap will bring it out. So I'm going to disconnect this return now and put it back here. Okay, the power steering system is back on, and I'm in the middle of putting back the intake hose and the intake housing. So I've changed the clamps to this type. I like this type of clamps better, and added some layer of tape over here, cloth tape, so that reduce the wear and tear on the hose. So now I'm going to put it back in.